Hello and welcome to another episode of Biohack Chat. I am your host, as always, Justin. Welcome to the show. And it's been a hot minute since we've done one of these streams. It's been a busy week or two. As always, we're going to be talking with my good friend Gabriel Licina, who I'll introduce in just a second. And the theme for today is talking about our favorite GMO organisms, projects, that sort of thing. There's actually a surprising number of either very interesting GMO projects that are commercially available or could be commercially available soon, or just are already, they're on the market. They're the sort of thing that you can already buy. So we're gonna be talking about all that kind of stuff, and I'm pretty excited. Before we get into it, as you can see from the bar underneath my face, we're doing a fundraiser for robot parts. In the last stream, we had a look at my liquid handling robot, and we're doing a little bit of a fundraiser just to get some more kind of odds and ends for it. It uses a lot of consumables. There's some bits of actual hardware that I want to get for it just to kind of like upgrade it, make it a little more functional, that sort of thing. So that's what those donations are going for. If you'd like to donate, I'd suggest doing so through the link in the description, as Streamlabs sends me essentially all of the money, whereas if you donate through Super Chat, YouTube takes their pound of flesh, which I think is about 30%. So I appreciate all donations in whatever form you're comfortable with, or none at all. That's also fine. But yeah, just my 2 cents. Without further ado, let's get into it. So I gotta just do the thing, and then I click this, and hello, Gabe. You are on the air. Say hello.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, they should be able to hear you.
Okay. Hi. Hi. Many of you know me. I'm Gabriel. I work with a nonprofit 501c3 called Sci-House, and Justin and I are going to talk about GMOs, and we're not just going to talk about like modern GMOs. We're going to talk about like the history of GMOs, because it's very, very interesting, and even the language behind the concept of genetically modified organisms versus genetically engineered organisms versus the archaic term of like breeding. It all comes together in a very interesting kind of way. So I'm pretty excited about this.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. Especially like I'm excited to talk about why kind of the sort of definition of GMO is sort of dumb. Like we've been like if you actually like focus in on the idea that humans have been modifying things to suit their purposes, and messing with their genetics. We've been doing that for like 10,000 years. Every like
Yeah, I mean, every dog comes from one breeding pair of wolves.
yeah,
and I mean, those wolves don't even exist anymore. They're like an extinct species.
Yeah.
So that's pretty crazy.
It is. Also, like, when people are like, we need to go back to nature and eating naturally, like, they forget that every apple they've ever eaten is just as man-made as a Pop-Tart. Like, it's the way it is. Like, there's, it's just, when...
Can you pull up some pictures of what corn looked like before domestication?
Yes, I can do that. Ancient.
Yeah, and already seeing something about nuclear gardening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We will talk about nuclear gardening.
That was a huge thing.
I mean,
We're
okay,
definitely going to get on that.
Here's a good warm up picture. We already got. Here's an even better picture. It was tiny. It was like a couple little grains that were hard as rocks and completely inedible. Whereas if you compare that to modern corn, it's these huge stalks, tons of grains. The grains are sweet, very edible, full of sugar. This is not at all what corn was. Corn was basically like grass, and we've over 10,000 odd years bred corn and messed with its genetics basically. So like when you breed something, you're essentially randomly mixing its DNA. It's like that's what you're doing. I mean that is the whole point of sexual reproduction. It's to mix the genes around, and plants are especially capable of this because they usually have so many genes and so many copies of their genes, so you can get really weird effects by just if there's a weird mutation where one of the chromosomes doubles, that could double the size of your plant without any other negative effects necessarily. However, there have been plenty of things that we have bred that, like every GMO that we've like GMO traditional GMO where it's like made in a lab with changing one or two genes has, to my knowledge, never ended up with a plant that is toxic or damaging unless somebody like put a toxin in the plant on purpose. Like that's not how that works. Whereas things that were made through traditional breeding, because you have no control over what genes are getting mixed around, there have been multiple instances where they've ended up with like super toxic potatoes and zucchini and all kinds of stuff. So this is a well-known thing.
One of the things that like really resonates with me, or one of the things that I always think about, is the fact that they've had to change the diet for animals, like zoo animals. They're like, hey, we always just fed these animals the same thing. And then, but because we have been, like, there's this concept of food that's good for people. And that's not the same thing as food that we want to sell or that people want to eat, because our biology craves sugar.
Yeah.
It wants to store that energy.
I mean, this is why sugar's so addictive.
We have been making,
it's hardwired.
So we've been making plants that are sweeter and sweeter, and so you're actually seeing animals in the zoo that are getting obesity problems, even though they haven't changed their diet per se, but the changes that we've made in the plants through selective breeding have actually altered the plant so much that we're getting like fat animals.
Fat animals with like weird health problems.
Kind of fucked up.
Like diabetes.
Like most of America.
Right. Like
yeah.
So
like who wants a bear with diabetes? Diabetes? I mean, like it's just that's not cool. They didn't ask for that shit.
It is, but it's also really funny. Like humans have have like that desire for sugar so ingrained because I mean you got to think about it. If like the fruit tree was over there and there was a lion between you and the tree, you need to have one hell of a drive to like convince you that it's a good idea to go run past that lion, up the tree, get a fruit, and fuck off. Like, so it's for us it makes sense. It's also
so there's
I also find that very funny. Like when people are like, "Well, we're on the paleo diet where we're mostly eating like grain, like vegetables," and that, where it's like the realistic paleo diet is like, I must eat all of these cupcakes so that I can.
I'm just gonna eat anything.
I'm just gonna
omnivores.
They are, but it'd be more like
anything in front of me.
I need to eat this cupcake as soon as I can to maximize my glucose stores. Like that's the paleo diet.
So there's a really good
they just
question
didn't have
here,
cupcakes.
And this is like how we're gonna start. Like we're gonna start setting a baseline for the rest of the conversation.
Yeah.
Is this concept of GMOs. And so, like, is selective breeding different from GMO? Okay, so GMO just means genetic modified organism.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you take two puppies and you make them have sex, and then you take the puppies you don't want and you throw them in a river, because that's how we used to do it.
Yeah.
And then you just look at the puppy and you're like, hey, this puppy looks pretty okay. And then
I love the deformities I've bred into these.
You were definitely, I know, why do you hate puppies, for one?
Yeah.
Two, you're obviously acting with intent to modify. And you're modifying their genes. Just because you're doing it in the most obtuse, I don't understand how genes work kind of way, doesn't mean that you're not engaging in genetic modification.
Also, it's not that we didn't entirely understand.
Like phenotypical selection is a thing.
It is a thing, and also like part of the way that we figured out how genes work was actually because of the way that inbred is really the correct term for what we did to dogs. We'd inbred them so hard that they ended up with this really weird mix of genetic fuckery. And so now it's made like the perfect like case study because we can look at all the weird shit we did to dogs, and go, oh, that's what happens when you break
Yes.
those genes. Also, never. Just as a quick aside, don't ever
Right,
buy
which is why you have like all that weird hip dysplasia and
I was
everything.
about to say, never buy a pure breed. Like, if you buy a pure breed, you're an asshole. Like, that's just the way it is. Pure breeds are inbreeds, and they're usually just so broken. Like, I buy them, go to the shelter, buy a mutt. Like, mutts are the healthiest dogs you're ever gonna find. Like, the pure breeds usually have, like, some breeds, their skull has been bred to be so small that their brain pushes up against the inside of the skull, so they're in pain their entire life.
It even rotates.
Yeah,
It even
it's
rotates.
not good.
You can see MRI scans. Give me some dog MRI scans.
Oh god, I clicked the wrong thing. That was my bad. Dog MRI brain rotation.
Yeah.
Oh god, come on.
Yeah.
Dog MRI brain.
Yeah, you're gonna love this. It's gonna make you happy.
Oh, this is gonna be gross. I feel like this is gonna be gross. Oh no! Wow, that's super weird.
It's super weird.
I mean, right? Like you end up with like these weird, like twists and like kinks in it that just is not. That's not good. Like these dogs are not happy. I think it's a King Charles Spaniel. These are the ones that are like famously broken. Yeah, here you go. Here's a good picture. You can see that their brain is like jutting up against the front of their skull. It's not pleasant. Don't buy these dogs.
Yeah.
Like you're just
Yeah, and so somebody asked, why did people do this to dogs if it was dangerous to them?
because people
I
don't give a
know.
shit,
Maybe
and
because
they thought it looked
sometimes
nice.
we just do stuff because we want to.
Also because people thought it
So-
looked cool, and they're just like, it's an animal. It doesn't feel pain, right?
No understanding of how the actual science works.
Yeah.
This is actually one of the best cases for why genetic engineering is a really great idea.
Yeah.
Because we actually have, because if you're looking at something phenotypically, like just how it looks, you're going to aim for that, and you're not going to think about like the insides of the thing. We're definitely having a book versus cover type of moment here when we're talking about dogs. And so being able to actually selectively do things means that we can pick and choose. We can examine how that works.
And see if it breaks
And then
anything
we
before we
can-
do it en masse. Like if
Before we just
if
do
you're
a
doing
whole
this with
bunch.
puppies, like you're getting as many puppies as a dog makes in a go. So, you know, if you're trying to breed a new type of breed of dog, like you're going to be going through dozens and dozens of puppies, most of which you're throwing in a river. Like it's not pleasant. Whereas if you're doing like it's basically the difference of like carpet bombing something versus like a precision strike. Like that's it. Like with modern genetic engineering, you're like, okay, I need to change one gene. Like I add or remove one gene or two genes, and then you can study what it does and how it affects things. And only at that point, if you're like, yes, okay, this is doing the thing that I want, it passes all of the tests, then you can, breed it up and get it up to, commercial quantities. But like until then, you can keep it nice and small. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to just be like, oh, now we've just got a breed of dog that's just unhappy forever. Like I see this as being quite important. So that's puppies. So I think so.
That's puppies.
So and I mean, not everybody will agree on this, but from the perspective of two biologists, we're of the opinion that it's all GMO, and so being picky about calling the modern stuff GMO while being totally okay with all the crappy stuff, and like it's kind of silly. So
Right.
for the sake of
roll...
our discussion, we're going to be including traditional breeding. We're going to be including nuclear gardening. We're going to be including and other.
Talk about those nuclear gardens.
And the thing is, nuclear gardening is one flavor of mutagenesis. There are dozens of different methods, some chemical, some radiation, some, there's all kinds of different ways to do it. So like we're lumping all of that into GMO because that's what it is. It's like
because it's all modification of genes, and
right.
therefore is GMO.
Yeah. So yeah, it's that's kind of the framework I think we're gonna just that's the baseline we're gonna set for the rest of the thing.
Let's pull up a refresher of atomic gardening. That's the proper term. Let's pull up a refresher of atomic gardening.
Okie dokie. Oh, that is no. Oh god, I clicked on the wrong thing.
Okay. I don't want to see your search history.
I typed in nuclear garden and that gave me a gun.
Interesting. Okay.
And then I clicked shopping by accident, and then it sent me to links to buy guns.
Hey, look, you're in Canada. You're not allowed to do that.
Actually, we are. We are allowed to have guns. It's just we can't carry them around and wave them at senators. Anyway, so this is atomic gardening. Basically, the way this works is you've got a pillar in the middle that has literally a giant hunk of hyper radioactive material. Like you do not want to be anywhere near this thing while it's running. It's perfectly safe once it's contained, but like it's highly radioactive.
But you totally can find old-timey pictures of like gardening grandmas rocking their favorite plants from their atomic garden.
Yeah. So basically what you do is you plant plants in a circle around the pillar so that they all get exposed uniformly. And then you just irradiate the hell out of them when they're at like a particular growth phase. So like usually right before they make seeds. So you just irradiate the hell out of them, and then you plant all of the weird broken seeds that came out of those plants. And some of them will have traits that you like. So for example, one of my favorite examples of this is the ruby red grapefruit. If you've ever had a red grapefruits are not natural. Like, that's not a thing. So if you've ever had a grapefruit that looks like this, you've had the result of nuclear gardening. There's nothing bad about it. It's totally safe to eat. It's just red, and it's got a bit of a different flavor. But that was how this was made. So if you're like against GMOs, then I hope you don't like grapefruit, because that's how that was made.
Or peanuts.
Or
corn. Snap peas.
Another really great
stuff.
one I want to talk about, and this one's just traditional breeding. Oh, not brassica. Jesus, I can.
You can do this.
Brassica. There we go. This is
Oh,
one
the brassica.
The brassicas. So if you've ever had Brussels sprouts,
you gotta get the big picture for this.
I did. So if you've so if you've ever had Brussels sprouts, cabbage, kale, broccoli, cauliflower, kohlrabi, technically bok choy, although it's a different variety. That one is actually a different variety, but it's all mustard. All of these different plants are all the same plant. Like it's actually surprising how few plants we eat, because you're like, oh yeah, we eat all these different.
Definitely.
We eat all of these different greens. It's all the same plant. So all that's been done is it's been selected for different parts of the plant. So like Brussels sprouts are for lateral leaf buds, cabbage is for the terminal leaf bud, kale is for the leaves, broccoli is for the flower bud stems, cauliflower is for the flower buds, kohlrabi is for the stems. And so just by selecting for these different things over hundreds and hundreds of years, you end up with these dramatically different looking plants, even though genetically they're basically the same. Like, because you can breed all of them with all the other ones because it's the same plant. We just had a donation. Thank you very much, Neko Gummy. So Neko asks, have you considered starting a Discord? Yes, I have a Discord. If you're a patron or a channel member, there is a link to the Discord, and you are welcome to hop on. But yes.
And Sci House has decided to try to start a Discord as well.
Okay.
It's hard because we're smeared like a very, very thin layer of butter across the world. Um, but we're also trying to do that.
Yeah.
So we're trying.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Is the thing.
Justin, as a founding member, have you considered joining the Science Discord?
I should probably do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god, between all the Discord channels and the Slack channels and the Facebook groups and the fucking Twitter and just everything else, it's so hard to keep track of all the freaking like groups I'm supposed to be paying attention to. Like it's just it's hard. But yeah, so I love the brassicas as my go-to example of what genetic modification is, because usually the people who are against GMOs are shoveling kale into their face by the fucking truckload. So it's like, hey, well, if you don't like
Yeah.
GMOs, you're gonna have to change your diet because
And they've got a pug.
right, they've got a pug and a pile of kale, and it's just like, okay. um, oh, and then of course, also mustard. Like, when I call it brassica, the common name is mustard. So the reason that like all of these plants tend to taste kind of bitter is because it's mustard. Um, so I mean mustard even is selected for larger seeds so that way we get good hot dog toppings. So it really is a very versatile plant, but also it's a perfect example of how most of the things that we eat are genetically modified, and so just learn to live with it. Like when I say that every food you've ever like every fruit or vegetable you've ever eaten, or not every, but almost every vegetable and fruit that you've ever eaten is probably as man-made as a Pop-Tart. And there are some exceptions that I'm aware of, like dragon fruit, for example. That's just how that grows. Like we haven't messed with that. Prickly pears. Like there are a few. It's not to say that every vegetable or fruit at the grocery store has been like messed with, but all of the common ones have. Like I mean, look at a tomato. Like a tomato started as something the size of my pinky nail, and now you get beefsteak tomatoes that are like the size of my head. So like, and tasteless usually, but that's neither here nor there. Yes, squash, cucumber, pumpkins, gourds are also all the same. Like,
yeah,
it's all gourds.
So
like,
it's all good. It's gourds all the way down, Justin.
It is gourds all the way down. Yeah.
So, are you ready to get into the thick of it?
Let's do it.
Okay,
I mean, we've been talking about plants, we might as well get into the weeds. But
So there's something called the Third Agricultural Revolution, or the Green Revolution. You can hear the frantic tapping of keys everywhere. And so this was basically it started in the 30s, but it really took off in the 60s. And this was the huge change in how we did agriculture. And so this is basically fundamentally altered everything about what we do with agriculture and how we consume things. Because as everybody remembers, I'm a huge complainer about consumerism and communism or capitalism and all that other stuff. And and so
a little Freudian slip there.
Yeah. I mean, I complain about many things. I can complain about both simultaneously. I'm a complex human being like that. But so what this did was this allowed us to create a tremendous amount of food. This was the beginning of industrial agriculture.
Yeah.
And so...
And, like, the human population shot up after this.
Yeah.
Because it went from default everyone's starving to default we have way the fuck too much food. And so we just waste most of it.
Which is why we're so wasteful in our society, especially in American society with our food, is because there's always more, because we're actually making more than we use and we're throwing it away. And one of the like the guy who created the Green Revolution. I'm so shit with names.
Is the famous scientist who won a Nobel, right?
Norman something.
I don't
Yeah,
remember his
he
name.
won a Nobel Prize.
I don't remember his name, but I know who
But
you're
it's
talking about.
also Norman. His name is Norman.
His name is Norman.
And his name is Norman. And and so like he got a Nobel Prize because he
Norman.
saved people from
Norman
starvation.
Borlaug, I think.
But the flip side, Borlaug.
Yeah,
I don't know how to pronounce
Norman
it.
Borlaug, I think.
I've only read it.
I'm headed to Wikipedia.
He saved all these people from starvation, but the flip side of this is that we created this kind of industry for the creation of goods regardless of the use of the goods. And so this is where it gets to my favorite thing to fuck with y'all about.
So it was Norman Borlaug, by the way.
It was Norman Borlaug. Okay. So Monsanto. Everybody loves to hate Monsanto. But it is fairly impossible for us to consume and waste the way that we do without the technologies that have been developed by those companies. So this is like a very interesting feedback loop. Like, I don't like GMOs. And it's like, cool, so you're just going to not eat anything now? And so this can get, and I understand that there is no responsible consumption under capitalism.
Yeah.
And it is okay to criticize bad actors, but also we should recognize what we get out of it and the benefits that we've gotten.
Yeah.
So and I'm throwing that out there, and I'm handing it off to you in the comments section because I'm just waiting to see how this explodes in my face.
Yeah. So the thing with Monsanto is like everybody gets all fucking weird about their let's be honest, not so great business practices. Like they definitely have sued farmers. Like they've definitely done a bunch of really scummy shit. No one's pretending that that's not a thing. However, that's all people see. When the reality is they fund an enormous amount of agricultural research. I mean, while you were at the University of Washington, they were funding a lot of the research that your school was doing, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I was also watching them shift between genetic engineering and also working on permaculture methods. And so Monsanto actually does amazing levels of they've got whole departments that are just about bacteria.
Right. And I mean, just because their legal department are assholes doesn't
happen.
mean that the company itself is necessarily you can't just write off the whole company as being crap if their legal department are assholes. I mean, their legal department is full of lawyers. Of course they're assholes. It's their job. It's in the job description. If you can't tell, I don't like lawyers. The rest, the research department does amazing work. And also, everybody hates on the Roundup Ready crops, but glyphosate is safer than all of the herbicides that came before it. And all of the pesticides that came,
Right, which is a low fucking bar.
It is a low bar, but it is safer. It's been shown...
falls under the category of... hey, we're tired of throwing puppies in the river. Maybe we would like to do something else.
Right.
And we are definitely finding out that glyphosate is still really fucked up. I'm not going to disagree with that. There's no,
except
no
that all of the
evidence.
I mean, all of the evidence points to it being non-carcinogenic, and
But it's not about. It's not just about us, man.
No,
it's
and
about
I get
how it fucks up the bees.
No, don't get me wrong.
And lots of other stuff.
I agree on that, but the thing that people tend to harp on is that, it's actually, in California they say it causes cancer, even though none of the evidence points to that. So it's there are arguments against it. And, I mean, most of the arguments against glyphosate are not against glyphosate itself. Glyphosate itself is fine. The problem is the other crap they put in Roundup that makes it penetrate into cells in ways that normal glyphosate doesn't. So... really, that's the more important conversation. This is the thing that gets lost in the mush. Is we need to have a conversation about how we control what goes into products. Because right now, the only thing that tends to get legislated are what's called the active ingredients. So, like the glyphosate itself. While the inactive ingredients, you can use whatever you want, and there's minimal regulation against that. When in reality, it's the inactive ingredients that can cause more of the problems. And so, like, I got into an argument with this redneck fella at one point, and he was arguing that there's secret ingredients.
That's classist.
So, okay, whatever. So he's like, there's secret ingredients in Roundup that's doing. I'm like, no, there fucking isn't. The things that are listed on the bottle are the problem, not the things that they're not sneaking in some extra shit. So it's a different conversation. But the problem is it gets swept up in this glyphosate equals evil, and so you can't have a frank, real discussion about okay, no, it's not that it's this. It's the science points to this part being fine. We just need to adjust how the other things are, and then we need to study, its more broad effects, and also we need to have a conversation about, okay, we're already at a point where we're producing so much food, maybe it's okay if we have a little bit of loss, or maybe it's okay if if we shift the way that we do things a little bit. But I think it's a tool. I think it's in the same way that you probably don't want to be taking out a screw with a hammer. It has its purpose. It has its thing.
Or being hit in the head with a hammer.
Right. So it has its purpose. It has its uses. But like antibiotics, it's probably overused. And because antibiotics also great tools, but we throw them at everyone with a cold. So these problems aren't necessarily problems with the thing so much as problems with the application. And that I think is a really, 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 really important thing to keep in mind when discussing sensitive topics like GMOs, where things tend to get lumped together very haphazardly when there's way more nuance to it.
Good question just came up here. I have lots of hopes in targeted RNI pesticides. Okay, so even the language itself lends towards a problematic situation. Okay, pests imply that insects don't do things. That a complex food web isn't important.
RNAi. So I think that might have been a slight misspeak. I don't think they meant pesticides necessarily, but because I know RNAi is extremely useful for plant viruses, and that's really where they shine, because plant viruses. Everybody agrees those suck, and they destroy billions of dollars of crops. So I think in that context, RNAi is fantastic. Using it to kill insects, not so much, but using it to kill viral pests, hell yeah, sign me up. Because that's extremely targeted. It doesn't affect anything that it's not supposed to. It deals with something that is currently the treatment for a virus-infected field right now is light it on fire and pray that it doesn't come back, because otherwise you're just never able to plant things there ever again, and that's beyond debilitating for farmers. So being able to give them finally a tool, it's really the theme of 2020 is viruses fucking suck and we need better tools to fight them. So really, I think that is a fantastic application. In terms of dealing with insects, I think we need to have a more frank conversation about, okay, we've gotten really good at nuking everything with chemicals to get them to do things, but what if instead of that we started building a community is the wrong word. Rapport is also not the right word, but building into our process using beneficial insects, for example, rather than trying to just kill everything. What if we just had more ladybugs, kind of thing?
This is just the most complicated version of talking about permaculture.
It is, but that's what it is. We've gotten really good at shitty monocultures. But it needs to be explained
in different ways for different people.
Right, and so it's we've gotten very good at monocultures, and that's put us in a place where we can comfortably throw out 70% of our food and still have too much. So if we dial things back a little bit, change things, how we do things, really start leaning on the permaculture, I think there's much more benefit, and we can kind of cut off some of that excess. Also, this is something that I've been talking about a lot with some of my engineering friends, that one of the biggest losses of food is in transport. So before we even get into the problems of grocery stores overstocking and throwing stuff out just for the sake of appearances, like a huge amount of food is lost on trucks and in rail and just getting it from one place to another. So bringing food production into the cities through things like vertical farming, the things that work for this, obviously, not it. You can't
Or
do.
just having integrated systems. Like, there are some cities. Hey, Justin, remember when we lived together in a city that was like the size of a county?
Yeah, that was funny. As it also fuck Jacksonville.
Yeah, that
Just-
was. Yeah, fuck Jacksonville.
to
Like,
anyone who lives in Jacksonville,
there is,
move.
yeah. Sorry, and also you guys are like kind of the epicenter for the plague right now. So
Yeah.
anybody who's in Jacksonville, could you not? But so like, there's a lot of ways that we've designed our cities to be functional for cars and shipping, which doesn't make sense if you're already making the thing in the city.
Yeah, I mean, so like, I mean, but this is also one of those, like, we basically need to rework how we build our cities, build in more, because really, I mean, if you took one of the massive skyscrapers that is currently full of, I mean, depending on the city, it could be full of nothing. Like in Vancouver, there's entire skyscrapers that have nobody in them. Like, people just own them for the sake of owning stuff. They don't actually put anybody in them because it's not worth it to try and do, like, landlording. The building is worth more than filling it with people. So if you had one building, the size of your a usual large apartment building, the amount of food that you could crank out of that in one in a couple of months is insane. And because it's local,
remember that abandoned Sears across from our apartment building?
Yeah, exactly. Like there's so many buildings that are currently being unused, like big warehouses, whatever, that can be overhauled into tiny little vertical agriculture where all of a sudden you can be churning out a lot of the food that is currently taking up huge amounts of field space that there's no reason that it needs to, and you're losing a ton of it on transport anyway. I'm a big fan of aquaculture, personally, so you get, not only do you get all these greens, because it's usually greens, like the things that work well in vertical farming is greens, but you also get fish.
Little baby stuffs.
Yeah, but you also get fish, and the thing is, fish, we're fishing the oceans dry right now. Like, it's a huge problem. So being able to move fish production away from let's just drain the oceans to let's just grow them ourselves out of the ocean and leave the ocean alone. This means you get fresh.
Okay, so counterpoint.
Yeah.
Counterpoint. Don't we have a problem as a general global society with not giving a fuck about something unless it's giving us something? And therefore, if we just switch over to aquaponics, do you think that there would be... So this is more of a question, I guess. I got a question. No, maybe it's a comment. Maybe it's two comments and a question.
Just
Pitter
pitter-patter, man.
It's a trope. Do you think that maybe we would just become more dismissive of the oceans because then we've got our little ocean in a box and that's all we care about because that's where we get our food?
I don't think so, because the ocean fish are still going to be different than the things you can do with aquaponics. Aquaponics inherently is freshwater fish, so it's switching from from growing things that people like in the form of ocean fish to different fish that are just as tasty and just as good and just as nutritious, that are freshwater fish that are okay with being grown in aquaponic systems. So I don't think so. Also, there's so many other reasons to like the ocean, and I don't think it's gonna massively increasing aquaponics. I don't think is gonna completely kill the fishing industry, but I think it's gonna throttle it down in a way that will give the ocean time to breathe. Like, give it time for the stocks to renew, and then also there's just certain things that only really grow in the ocean. Like, you can't really do aquaponic lobster. Like, it's not I mean, maybe crawfish, but there's always going to be demand for things that come out of the ocean. I just think shifting that production away. And also, this is also a perfect time to talk about, we made salmon, salmon have been made and then have been genetically engineered to grow faster. So specifically so that they can be farmed better. So
You can even get like a little spreadsheet. Like, can you pull up the salmon chart? Do you know the thing that I'm talking about here?
I do not, but I googled salmon chart, and we're going to see what comes up.
Salmon color chart. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm sure there's some specific name.
Salmon
But
color.
it's
Like,
like
what do
you
you
can just,
what do you want to see? Like the inside of the salmon,
No, you can. Okay, hang on.
or just salmon varieties? Because I mean, here's a picture.
No, not just varieties. No, see, I googled salmon color chart, and I got the first thing right away.
Well, see,
It's
you
like
put
a
in
little
salmon
fan.
color chart. I put in just salmon chart. Salmon color chart.
Salmon color chart. Yeah.
Okay.
Fix it.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I see what you mean. Okay.
And you can do this. You can go to places that farm salmon, and they're like, yeah, these are the different colors of salmon. We've just like fucked with these salmon to make them look the perfect color.
Yeah. Also, the salmon's color, like, it freaks people out because when you grow salmon, when you farm salmon, they're gray. Like the meat is gray because the reason salmon are pink is because of the krill that they eat. So you have to supplement their diet with enough krill that it like evens out basically, and so it looks like salmon, like the salmon we're expecting. So, but I mean, then you can kind of get into, well, if we're already genetically modifying the salmon anyway, and the only reason that we want it pink is because, like, nutritionally, the gray looking salmon and the pink looking salmon are the same. But you know, we get into this perception thing. So you could genetically modify the salmon to just produce a pigment so they look right, and then
So they look pink.
So they just look pink and they look good, and then no one's gonna complain because it's like, oh yeah, it's pink, it's salmon, it's fine. So, you know, then we get into, like, that's a really clever way to use genetic modification to deal with the fact that humans eat with their eyes first. Like, if you don't have, if you don't perceive a thing as being what you're expecting, even if it tastes at the same or better, you're not going to eat it because you think it's different.
No. You see it, and then you smell it, and then you feel it. Even if you're pressing into a steak with a fork, you feel the way that the steak feels,
right?
Or
like
the salmon
like
feels.
you taste,
and then
last.
it makes it to your mouth.
Yes, yeah, like
yeah.
And so you've
Taste
already
is
built
the
up,
last sense.
and you've built up all these perceptions. And I mean, this is a really big thing with any food, because like every time that they do studies on, you know, the difference between like a genetically modified versus an organic crop, the only time people choose the organic one consistently over the other one is when they're told that it's organic. Like if they're just like, one of these is organic and one of these isn't, it's 50-50. It's totally random. There's no obvious difference between the two, and it's just a perception thing. So we got a donation, so I just want to address this really quickly. Is it general practice to replace propeptide sequences with the AMF tag when expressing mammalian proteins in yeast? I don't know. I mean, in theory, that's extremely case specific. The AMF tag he's referring to is alpha mating factor, I think, which is for secretion. So that's actually not super normal. I did it in my case with the spider silk and some of the other things because I want the protein outside of the cell. But if you're making something delicate, usually you just leave it inside the yeast and pop them open later. So yeah, hopefully that addresses your question, and thank you very much for the donation. Okay, so you know, talking about aquaponics and these farmed salmon, I think really, to me, genetic modification is the tool that we need to help address a lot of these like big societal problems. Like you definitely have to, but it's not the only tool. You have to use the entire toolkit. So you have to use permaculture,
Exactly.
You have to use aquaponics, but these things come with limitations, and genetic modification is a way to sidestep some of those limitations, tweak some of those limitations, and make things that are fundamentally different. Not necessarily, I mean, I think they're better, but I'm inherently biased. So I see it as a very, very useful tool. Um,
Yeah,
so
it's
speaking,
a tool in
it
the
it
toolbox.
is a tool, and so I mean, one of the other, if we're talking about genetically modified crops, right? I'm actually a huge fan of BT crops, um, because since the advent of BT crops, the amount of pesticide that has to be sprayed onto crops dramatically drops off, and so the effects to the ecosystem around where you're growing is actually greatly improved because the pesticides aren't leaking into the ground and getting all over the thing, like getting all over everything else. So you can still get high yields without having to um, just nuke everything around it, and this is huge. And I mean, BT is also highly specific. So while it definitely can have issues, if or not, I don't know about definitely, but there are some studies that point to it being a problem in really high quantities. Um, the quantities needed to be expressed in the plants is very low, and to the point where it's completely safe to eat. And the other thing to keep in mind is, unlike traditionally bred crops, where once you've bred it, you can just immediately sell it, and there's almost no restrictions on this. A genetically modified crop has to go through so much more testing. It's just an enormous amount of testing and trials to prove that it's safe for consumers. And people, for whatever reason, are like, GMOs are untested. That's insane. They're the most tested thing you'll ever eat. Um, so they've checked to make sure that these things are fine to eat, and they are. So I love the idea of BT crops, and there's a lot of farmers who also love the idea of BT crops because it means they have to handle less pesticides, so it's safer for them. It means their ecosystems are safer, their crops are more plentiful. And it's just a really cool thing, and I mean, BT comes from a bacteria. I have a bag of it behind me that I'm about to dose all my plants with. Um, and
Yeah,
it's
you've been having troubles, haven't you?
Yeah, it's been all insects all the time. I've basically become a Pokemon trainer, but for plant pests, and it's really quite frustrating. Like, I've got spider mites, aphids, thrips, fungus gnats. Um, yeah, that's it so far. And it's deeply frustrating.
Are
So
you? Are you? I mean, are you? You know, maybe you should get into entomology.
yeah, maybe.
Like, yeah, no, like I expect to see a Facebook post of you with all of your tiny, tiny monsters.
Yeah, I need to make tiny little saddles for them. Um,
You have to catch them all, Justin.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, so let's move away from crops because we've been talking. It's been all crops and farming all
Okay,
day long,
so
and
let's
we
let's
know that
go
we
back in
could talk
history
about
again.
that. Well, I kind of just want to talk about something fun for a little bit. Like, now that we've kind of talked about the
I
serious
was going to
stuff.
talk about something fun.
Okay, hit me.
Buddha's hand.
What? Oh, the head.
Buddha's hand. Buddha's hand.
Buddha's hand. These are cool.
The the oldest still existing citrus fruit. From whence all? Okay, that's not okay.
I was going
That's
to
an
talk about.
axolotl.
I was going to talk about the axolotls, but you want to talk about Buddha
Oh
head,
yes,
so
because
let's.
everybody likes glowing stuff. My bad. I just wanted to talk about food.
Well, I was like, but okay, talk about the Buddha hand because I like Buddha hand. I want one. They smell really nice. It's just I don't have any growing near me.
Yeah, definitely not my region or your region.
Just
You're
quickly.
colder than I am.
Yeah, somebody just asked, where do you get BT? I actually got the bacteria. So if you look up, fuck it, give me a second. So if you look at like biological larvicide, some is called Natol, some is called Vectobac. But really, if you look up Bacillus thuringiensis, subspecies is
That
Israelensis, then you'll get it, and it comes as like this bag of powder, and it's full of bacteria. The thing is, normally you just have to buy another bag of this, but I have a biology lab, so I'm gonna just streak it out and just have it growing on a plate, and then just like make liquid media, and then just spin it down. I mean, I'm gonna use the powder. Don't get me wrong, but like so that I don't run out, I'm gonna just grow a bunch of it, make stabs, and then I just have it forever. And then if I need it, I can grow like 100 mils worth of the bacteria, spin it all down to pellet it, throw in, like, pull off the liquid, throw in some distilled water, and then mix that with my plants, and there you go, Bob's your uncle. So yeah, that'll be cool. Okay, so you want to talk about Buddha's hand, because Buddha's hand, I mean, they look real cool. They're all pith, like it's all pith all the time.
They're all pith.
It's all pith.
They're all pith, and so like this goes back to what we were originally talking about. We were talking about like selective breeding and stuff like that. So the Buddha's hand is the oldest still existing citrus fruit.
Yep.
And it's just rind.
It's rind and
just
pith.
All rind.
I've got a cross section pulled up here. It's just pith.
But yeah, it's just that. And I think sometimes rich people will buy them and just put them in their house because they smell so strongly that they will actually fill up an entire room.
Yep.
You just get like ambient lemony citrus smell. And so this is like our closest version to what the original citrus was. This Lovecraftian beauty. And so through centuries of selective breeding, most other citrus has kind of trickled down from this. And so this is just like another amazing example of what modification of the genes. See how I did that? I just you just got to change it so it sounds like a different sentence.
Yep.
Modification of the genes can change something like this into the thing that you put in your margarita.
Right, like going from this to grapefruit.
They're also really freaking awesome.
Yeah, I would love to have some of these just to cook with. Like it looks so good. But yeah, so there was just just quickly because I want to address this. There was a question or a post in the comment. I don't know. I'm gonna need you to cite some sources because I don't know where you got this from, but they're basically saying that vertically grown produce is more expensive, which that the usual reasons for this are electricity costs and water costs. But this is why having a conversation about vertical gardening and vertical farming really, and aquaponics. So this is the thing: just pure vertical plants can be more expensive because all you're getting is plants, and the amount of electricity that it takes screws with the ratio. However, if you rework your energy generation system to be primarily renewables, ideally nuclear, you end up with too much power. Whereas, like, if you're burning coal or gas to run your industry, electricity costs money. Whereas if you're running a combination of nuclear, wind, solar, all this kind of stuff, you have these parts of the day where you end up with more power than you can use. So if you're storing that or diverting it off to these systems of like vertical farms, you completely negate all of those problems. So it's a bigger conversation. None of these solutions work on their own. It has to be a complete overhaul of the system. If we try and just do one thing at a time, it's not going to work. You have to do it all in one go. It's funny that we're kind of in the perfect position at this red hot second in time to do this. Because we've essentially turned all the economies off, which is a machine that was never meant to stop. And so now I mean,
we're busy shooting each other a lot right now too. So.
Well, the Americans are, but the Canadians are in a particularly good position to completely rework our economy to be able to do this. But that's a conversation for another day. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of plants. Let's talk about some animals because.
So let's talk about some animals.
Some mammals.
Some
mammals. Okay, so this was something that I wanted as a kid so badly. This was my first experience of a genetically modified animal that you could actually buy. So for those who do not know, this is an axolotl, and it is so cute. They're actually native to a bunch of different places, but it's a newt. So it's a newt that for whatever reason, gets stuck in its juvenile stage. And I mean, it stays like that for its entire life. So normally newts look like this when they're young, but then as they age, these gills shrink back and they eventually transition to living on land. But axolotls have a weird quirk where they just don't. Normally they come in mostly dark colors, but they have been bred to be, or they may have found a variety that's albino. So they took these albino axolotls and they modified them because I mean, it's a newt, so it lays eggs that are squishy, so it's very easy to modify. Personally, literally as I said that, I was like, wait a second, I could make a blue one really easily, but that's neither here nor there. So what they did was they took the axolotls, the albino ones, and they modified them to produce green fluorescent protein. And so you end up with a thing that glows under black light, which is pretty neat. People have taken this same, and I actually, back when I was a kid, like in high school, I found a breeder who was like down the street from where I lived who sold these, and I was gonna buy one. It was like $45 a pop. And I'd gotten a fish tank going and I'd gotten it all set up, but I was having issues balancing the getting the tank healthy before I could, and so I never ended up buying it. But it's very cool. Like, these are readily available. So if you want a glowing pet, they're pretty good. They're also just adorable animals.
I'm having a fun time rocking out about history. And so for those of you that are closer to my age, you will remember the art project Alba, which was the genetically modified fluorescing rabbit.
How do you spell that?
That was
Alba rabbit?
ALBA.
Yeah, okay.
Alba rabbit.
Hey, that's, yep. I assumed so.
Yep. And
oh, they're cute.
Yeah, right? So the thing is, this was like a super huge big deal. And people were totally flipping out about this art piece where an artist supposedly created a fluorescent rabbit. And it turns out that really...
I'm going with highlighter dye? Like spray?
No, actually just like... if you're in the laboratory world, there's places that make this. Like, okay. If I want a fluorescent rabbit, I can just buy a fluorescent rabbit.
Yep.
Like,
it's not hard. It's not hard at all. You can totally get them.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get mice.
But this was like a really
glow
big
every
piece
color you want.
Like a big artistic moment, where they did this, and all of the work was actually done by a geneticist named Louis-Marie Houdbin. And I hope I'm not butchering her name. And for his, I honestly don't even know the gender of this person. I don't care. And then this guy was just like, oh, look at this. I have made art. He's glowing rabbit. And it's like, yes, you actually just went to the store and you bought glowing rabbit.
Yep.
So the novelty of glowing animals or glowing plants is actually like very, very low for people that have been exposed to academia or industry, in as much as that it's like that's a standard.
Yeah, I
mean,
mean,
everybody's got that shit.
Like, if I just look up GFP animals, like, the number that you'll find is insane. I mean, everything from mice to frogs to cats to monkeys. Like, we've stuck GFP in sheep. We've stuck GFP in just about everything, and it's not hard. Like, the only reason that, like, I wouldn't do it is because I have no need. It's very easy to do, especially things that make eggs. If you've got anything that makes eggs, it is so easy to do. Like, you can just buy the DNA that you need off of Adgene for $75. You mix it with some PEI and just inject it into an egg, and you're done. Like, that's it. It's the whole process. It's not hard. Like, it literally takes 5 minutes. If you're the kind of person that, like, raises animals regularly, especially like birds, you drill a teeny tiny hole in the egg that's after it's been fertilized, or fish, You drill a teeny tiny hole in, if it's a chicken, you drill a little hole in the egg, inject the right DNA mixed with a transfection agent, and then you just like cover the hole back up and just let it grow. And that's it. That's the whole process. Like it takes 30
That's it.
seconds.
And it's done.
Um,
Ding.
but so speaking of fish, this has actually become a commercial product. So everybody know, or not everybody, but I know about glowfish. Lots of people know about glowfish. In the States, they're very readily available. They've now done this to a
Yeah. Well, so
huge
you
amount of
remember?
different fish
You remember?
species.
Did I tell you how Andreas was just like, "Holy shit! I need to take pictures of this."
You did.
Because we went to the pet store to get zebrafish because we're trying to set up that zebrafish lab, and Andreas is like glowfish, and because they're super illegal in Austria and Germany
And Canada.
and so he's just like, no, okay,
Yeah, we can't get glowfish.
I
I mean,
didn't expect that.
we can technically get glowfish, but they're illegal. Like you're not supposed to be able to get glowfish.
They're illegal in Canada.
Yeah.
That's
Our genetic laws are weird.
yeah.
Not as bad as
How very
Austria, but
European of you.
yeah, right.
Well, I mean, but what is
Right.
Germany?
But yeah, so I mean,
Most
the
of the EU,
glowfish
actually,
are just so pretty. I love them. Like they're so like it's purely aesthetic. But I mean, most of the reason people keep fish is for aesthetic reasons. Like if you look at koi fish.
Okay. Oh, wait.
Oh, sorry.
Quick,
Finish.
really quick, important clarification.
Yep.
No, this is very important. They don't glow.
Yes.
They fluoresce.
Yes.
Okay, so they're called glowfish, but they're not glowing.
Yeah. You need to put
That
a black
would
light
be-
on them to make them light up. So like in this picture that
so
you can
most
see
of the
pulled up
time
right
they're
now,
just
there's a
vibing
black
on the
light.
side.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean,
this
however,
is really important because
they are colorful. Like they are distinctly
Mhm.
colorful even outside of the black light, but
right.
under a black
Yeah.
light they really brighten up.
So it's really and so the things that might have, like if you were glowing all the time, that would be problematic.
Yeah, it'd be exhausting.
It would be exhausting and metabolically exhausting because Jesus, the amount of energy that it takes to create light.
Well,
Wow.
that's what I mean. It'd be draining your energy reserves to do it.
I mean, it would also just be like you're not going to get a good night's sleep.
Also that.
So both of those things. So this is not the same thing as that. So it's very important that all y'all know that we are talking about fluorescent fish, even though they're called glowfish.
Yes. Glowfish, good marketing, not accurate to what they are. Also, they're supposed to be sterile. They're not. Like, you're not supposed to be able to make more glowfish when you buy them. Like, they're supposed to be sterile. They can totally.
Artem just asked the coolest question.
Did he? That's funny.
You're a GMO.
I am a GMO. Am I illegal in Canada? Okay, so GMOs aren't illegal in Canada. It's just there's a lot of regulatory paperwork to get them approved for sale. You're actually allowed to make almost whatever GMOs you want. There are exceptions. No toxins, no poisons, and no work on mammals. So technically,
You're a mammal.
I know I am a mammal. So technically, I am an illegal GMO. Technically. But
The United States will welcome you back.
oh god, no, I refuse. I'm never going there again. Until y'all deal with your secret police problem. No, thank you. My family has a long
Fair.
history of dealing with the secret
Fair.
police, and now most of them are smoke. So,
Same.
yeah, nope. Anyway, so glowfish. Segues. But I mean, I just love glowfish. I don't typically like doing genetic modification on stuff just for fun, but in the case of ornamental fish, I totally get it. Because I mean, they're ornamental fish. That's the whole point. Like, we've already been breeding them to be different. I mean, here, let's look at koi varieties really quickly. Because they all started as one fish. But we've just bred them to be hella weird. Like koi are basically just big goldfish. Just to be clear. But
Yeah.
we've bred them to be every color and very interesting patterns. And I mean, one koi fish can go for huge amounts of money, but it's just a carp. Like, they're just carp. Well, there's nothing, like, they're just.
This is the same way with freshwater shrimp.
Yeah.
There's a whole like ecosystem of modified freshwater shrimp.
Exactly. So like when I first learned that all koi are just big goldfish, basically, I was like, okay, I get it. Like I can totally get behind modifying fish to be different colors or have different patterns or whatever, because I mean it's something someone would buy and it doesn't affect the fish. Like the thing with the glowfish is they're not metabolically burdened very much at all by this. So it's a very big difference between it's one of the few instances of like an ornamental genetic modification that I'm pretty okay with, because it's not going to be damaging to the animal. It's not going to cause them distress. It's not going to cause them metabolic burden. It's just one pigment, and like.
Okay, so we've got like 3, 4. We got an ongoing conversation. We're talking about GMOs. We just made a joke about you being a GMO.
Okay.
Let's talk about you being a GMO.
Okay. I mean,
people are like, "What do you mean, Justin's a GMO? I didn't know he was a GMO."
I mean, technically, I'm a double
What's
GMO
going on?
because of the more recent thing. I mean, because it's DNA based, so technically, I am expressing new proteins.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, you could say that, but anybody gets a vaccine ever.
No, it's not, because a DNA vaccine is different. It's explicit.
Fair enough.
Right? The funny thing is, everyone
All
who's
right,
like,
do you want to?
well, so everyone who's like, GMOs are bad, I'm like, well, we're about to have a whole population of GMOs once that vaccine rolls out. So that's going to be real funny.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be like, I only eat
Yeah.
non-GMO. It's like, bitch, you are GMO. Okay, so the milk thing. So
Let's do the short version, though. Don't get carried away. You've got a video on it. So.
Yeah, I have 2 videos on it, actually. So for those who are unaware, a couple of years ago, I genetically modified my intestinal lining to produce the lactase enzyme, and it worked. I went from being like ungodly lactose intolerant to I can eat so terrible to I could eat an entire bucket of ice cream and feel nothing. So yeah, that's that. There's now 2 videos on my channel talking about this. The first one where I did it, and then a second one on a follow-up. I have noticed actually, like, my sensitivity to lactose now kind of just fluctuates. Like, sometimes I can eat like milk products and it's fine, versus sometimes it's iffy. So compared to back when you first met me, like, I was like, if there was a whiff of lactose in something, I'm just out of commission for a day. Whereas now I can eat small.
I could tell you guys some stories
Yeah.
about when we first started living together.
Yeah, but we're not
So
gonna.
terrible.
We're not gonna. But you know, now I can still eat small amounts of lactose, and if I want to have like a lot of lactose, I just take a pill or 2, and it's fine. Compared to I had to take a literal
As opposed to
handful.
17.
Yeah, like,
Wow.
dude, the one time Nick made mac and cheese, I think I took 30. That was awful. That was an awful experience, and it still made me sick.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, I am a GMO. Artem.
Yeah, we built it in the lab.
Yep.
We snacked it together in the lab, and then
So here's a here's a funny question.
Somebody hey, Scrap, can you throw the
a link to that up, please.
the link to the video?
Yeah. Artem, just a funny question. Artem asks, don't you need to give some hormones to a male to get the milk production going? Actually, no. It is totally a mechanical stimuli. So there have been
It is.
several instances of like a mother
Yeah.
dies and then the father's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, and so he just like lets the baby like
Sticks the baby on the nip.
and after a couple of weeks like your body just goes, oh, I'm supposed to make milk, and then he does.
Okay, I guess we're making
Yeah,
milk now.
it's weird. Like, it's very weird that our biology can do this, but I mean, all the structures are there. Like, there's no genetic reason why you couldn't. It's just normally those genes are turned off, but I mean, give it the right stimulus and it does the thing. So yeah, that's a thing. Although there are cases of like, especially when people are transitioning and like the hormones swing, all of a sudden like they'll start making milk or whatever. But anyway, that's neither here nor there, and not actually a genetic modification. That's totally natural. Kind of gross,
Yep.
but it's totally natural.
Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna step off camera for a second. I'll be right back.
Okay. So, well, he probably goes and refills his adult Gatorade. Let's talk about some other plants and some other stuff. So, of course, I'm a huge fucking nerd. So, we got to talk about the bioluminescent plants because they're just so freaking cool. So this we've talked about this particular plant many times. This is a variety of tobacco which has been modified to actually bioluminesce. So this isn't fluorescent in the way that the glowfish are. Like, these glow on their own. Like, there's no UV required. They'll just glow. So there has been some contention that perhaps this was faked or it wouldn't actually work. But I think it'll work. I think it's legitimate. I think it's real. So much so that we're attempting to, so myself, Andreas, and a few others, are actually attempting to recreate this to prove that it does actually work properly. So basically the way this works is it expresses 4 different enzymes that take a very common precursor that is readily available in plants and uses that to make a bioluminescent fuel, and so the plants can actually glow. I'm still, I remain skeptical until I actually see it working for myself, but I am hopeful because the system
I knew this was gonna happen.
What?
I walk away for 30 fucking seconds and you're talking about glowing goddamn plants.
Because I want Avatar Forest, and you can kindly go fuck yourself if you don't think that's cool. So yeah, I think it's cool. We're gonna try and recreate it. Some of the DNA has already been made. There were some issues with some of it, so that's getting dealt with because Twist is crap. But yeah, in theory we'll get it working. And I mean, this one I just like because it's such a, like, if it's real and it actually works properly, it's an art piece. Like, there's no reason to do this. Like, there's no benefit to doing this other than it's really cool looking, and it really inspires. I think it inspires a sense of wonder because it's something that really does not exist. There are no bioluminescent plants. They do not exist. So this is something that's truly only real in fiction, and so I think it's cool that somebody's actually making it happen. Okay, so that's one of my favorite. Gabe, do you have any other GMOs that you're excited about?
Enjoyment. No, you killed me with glowing plants.
Oh, well.
You know my weakness.
I'm telling you, I'm just once we know this works, I'm just making it into a spray and making your lawn glow.
What lawn?
Your daikon. It's just gonna be a field of glowing daikon. Don't hate it. You know that'd be cool.
I am the Totoro, so I'm okay with that.
Yep. Oh, how about Arctic apples? What do you think about Arctic apples? Are you familiar with these?
Apples?
Yeah, the non-browning apples.
Oh, I'm less excited about that.
I mean, you're a chef. You put some fucking lemon on it and it's fine. But, like, I thought it was cute. It uses RNA interference.
Yeah. I don't know. This falls into the category of. You're right. I am a chef, and unless this is like making the apple taste better, this is just a matter of laziness. In all honesty, we talked about earlier, like we talked about how genetic modification is a tool and how it's just a tool in a toolbox. And so I see this as an over application of the tool in as much as that it doesn't necessarily need to be used. And I don't really get it.
Okay.
You
Hey, that's
know?
fair. Okay, so
The Arctic apple the Arctic apple is the GMO apple version of Easy Mac in my brain. And therefore I'm like,
all right, fair enough.
Okay, who the
What?
No, there will be no glowing bamboo because I am not allowed to plant bamboo.
Yeah, you're banned from bamboo. So okay, well, so if you're not into Arctic apples, what about sunions? Have you heard of these? Sunions? They're onions that don't make you cry. They're not even genetically modified. They did this through breeding.
I thought we just agreed that breeding was genetic modification.
I know, but it's not RNA interference, which is how it was done originally. Well, so the paper that did this the first time...
Stay on message here.
So, okay, so the paper that did this originally did it through RNA interference, and I actually did a stream where we designed a construct that would do this. But the group that made Sunions managed to do it without RNAi. They just did it through breeding and managed to knock the one gene out. Personally, I'm a huge fan of these because I am particularly sensitive to the onion lacrimatory compound, and I always cry. I have such trouble cutting onions because I'm just in tears. I've learned to cut onions with my eyes closed because I might as well. Like I cry a lot when I cut onions. I'm a big fan personally. I think it's neat.
I mean, it's cool. It feels like a clever hack, but it also just feels like a doing it to do it type of thing, which I guess a lot of this type of stuff would be. But I don't know. I guess I don't see these type of things as solving anything.
Fair.
Or bettering anything. I just see it as making it easier for people. And if there's one thing that we've learned in the last, our entire lives, it's that making things easier for us isn't necessarily always the best thing.
Okay, counterpoint then. What about golden rice? What do you think about golden rice? The beta-carotene producing rice.
I mean, so I'm of two minds about this thing. One is actually, golden rice is pretty dope. I think it's fantastic. The other one is, I also think this is going to get really meta here, or like really scaled out. But man, there are just like huge chunks of the planet that we're not supposed to be living on. Like if the only place that, like, I've done self-experimentation with vitamin A and depletion of vitamin A. I went on a non-vitamin A diet for 3 months. That's hard.
It is hard.
If you're in a place, it's like basically beef, white rice, and mushrooms, and white onions.
Or Soylent.
That's it.
Or Soylent.
Or Soylent 0.7.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you're in a place where you can't get any vitamin A, it is time to become a nomad.
I think the issue is...
I will welcome you into my house.
I don't know if it's necessarily a problem with being able to grow plants that contain vitamin A so much as the populations that live there have just been getting the boot for so long that they just literally can't afford.
That's true.
So I really don't think that it's necessarily a
I don't have
climate
a problem. Oh no, not just a climate problem, but just like a...
Or like an
how
ecosystem
things
problem.
Grow type of
that's
problem.
What I mean. Like I don't think that's the case. I think it's more of just they're literally too poor to afford anything else.
Yeah.
And like because rice is so cheap.
I'm always on board with people not getting fucked over.
Yes.
So I think So golden rice, and actually I'll about golden rice. I think it's awesome. I also know that didn't they have a whole bunch of issues with
Yeah, so they had a whole bunch of rollout issues. There's a couple of groups that are like hardcore opposed to them, but the other issue was that the rice variety that they chose grows really well in California where it was engineered. It does not grow super well where they actually wanted to deploy it. So that was part. So this kind of comes into the genetic engineering as a tool. And it needs to be applied properly. So if they had chosen a rice variety that grows native to the area that they wanted to deploy it in, and then modified it, that makes a lot more sense than just picking a rice variety that happens to grow near you and then deploying it and then wondering why it doesn't grow well. But the other issue was they had a field growing of it in the Philippines, and then a bunch of protesters lit it on fire. So that's the deployment issue, and because then you get the Greenpeace morons who are like, "Well, GMOs are bad," and so they like light it on fire. And it's like, can you fuck off? Like, so it's a socio-political, it's a socio-economical, and it's also
it's complicated.
It is complicated. It's also like the science wasn't necessarily applied perfectly, so there's a lot of issues with it. But as a technology, I think it's fantastic, personally.
Oh no, yeah, golden rice is freaking dope.
Yeah, and I mean the other thing is you can include other vitamins in the rice at similar levels of difficulty. Vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin B12. I mean, these things take a lot more engineering than vitamin A, but it's still quite doable. And so you could get soylent rice if you really wanted, but I mean, then you're going to get really shitty rice that grows poorly, or you'd have to like supplement the soil to get to offset the metabolic burden. But like, it is possible, and I love the idea of this thing because I think it's it points to what could be done with genetic engineering, because a lot of what is done with modern genetic engineering is either pest resistance, herbicide resistance, or aesthetic stuff. So like the Arctic apples, for example, where it has so much potential to be used for nutritional or increased crop yields, rather than like attacking we need to just apply herbicides so it survives. You can, rather than that, you could attack it and make the grains bigger, or you could make the plant grow faster, or include some of your like SBPA's research where it sequesters more carbon, or whatever the hell the thing is. I see there's so much potential for what could be done with this, and I think it's mostly just squandered because people pick the easy bullshit.
Yeah. All right, we've been grinding at this for a while. Let's do their wrap up. Let's get some comments and yeah.
Okay, so if you guys have any questions or comments that you'd like us to address, now is the time. Otherwise, we're gonna wrap this up for the day. So tell us what GMOs do you like? What's your favorite GMO? What GMO do you want to see?
About anything that we've talked about.
Also that.
Oh yeah, what GMO do you want to see?
So just quickly, somebody mentioned you have to be careful with vitamin A in a staple though, because too much is bad. If you get vitamin A through beta carotene, you actually can't overdose on vitamin A. If you have sufficient levels of vitamin A,
you have to try so hard.
You do. Your body will literally just not convert the remaining carotene into vitamin A, so you'll just piss it out. So that's one. This is the argument for making carotene producing rice rather than directly vitamin A producing rice, because then you won't overdose.
They're going fast.
Yeah.
Okay, David. There's a concept called David Way. I don't know how to pronounce it. Yeah. Sorry. There is a concept called metabolic burden, and so there is a slight strain, but it is not damaging. If it was damaging, the rabbit wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So if you express GFP in the rabbits, and it would be damaging, like you just don't get rabbit.
Yeah. Also, you can throttle the
concept of metabolic strain or metabolic burden.
Yeah. Also, you can throttle the amount of GFP by choosing certain genetic elements when you're designing the DNA. Mm-hmm. So you can, if it's becoming a metabolic burden, you can see that the rabbit is noticeably growing too slowly. But say it's really fluorescent, like you can just dial back the fluorescence so that it balances out. Also, you can just feed them more. But also it's also just one little protein, and GFP is a tiny protein. whilst being very fluorescent. So you don't need a lot of it for it to work. So it's really not a huge cost to the animal.
So so I'm actually really this sounds really fun, because then we can talk about the Titan fly.
What? Oh, okay.
So there's this question: can you modify tropisms in plants, gravitropism, electrotropism, make them more sensitive to these, and control them with orientation/voltage? And so this is a concept called directed evolution, where you grow a series of organisms in a chamber or a system where you are slowly changing the variables of the system over time to see how the organism evolves. Usually we do it with bacteria, but also, Justin, get me Titanfly.
I'm already on it. It's already up.
Yeah.
I knew it was coming. I knew where this was going.
Titanfly. But also somebody did, and this is just the most painful thing because it was just an art project, but it's like an 8-year-long art project. I think it's still going. Where they are doing this thing where they basically took the environmental effects of being on Titan. We're talking radiation, all these other type of things, and then they're growing Drosophila. And they're like, yeah, I'm going to just survive, and I'm going to slowly crank it up until I'm on another planet and see what, like, these are the first space flies. So talking about GMOs that are maybe not useful, but maybe also useful, is this concept of directed evolution and basically slowly growing through generations.
I just wish they'd done this with
increasing
bees.
Modification. What?
Wish they'd done this with bees instead of flies. Because then you can make Titan flowers.
Slowly.
I know, but you make like Titan flowers, and then you make Titan bees, and then you've got a Titan apiary, and that sounds hilarious.
Yeah.
We've had a couple requests for natural blue hair. That's actually fairly easy. That's quite easy. You basically knock out the melanin gene in the area, replace it with a fucking A blue protein. Actually, this is one of my favorite. I have a soft spot for chromoproteins. So one of my favorites is called A blue, and I have some in my fridge, and it's glorious. So I'm trying to pull up a picture really quick here. It's a chromoprotein, so it's not fluorescent. It's just brightly colored. But I mean, look at this color. Like, it is just stunning. It's this beautiful dark royal blue, but it comes from a protein. Like, it's crazy that it's like this. So yeah, I have some of this in my fridge, and you really got to get it in the right bacteria. Like, the bacteria that I have it in is not super great at producing protein, so it's not quite as vivid as this. But it's still quite blue. But yeah, this would be quite doable. It'd be a little hard because testing on humans is iffy, but doable. All right, let's see what else we got in the comments here.
Perfumed manatee. Did
you just got really choppy?
Talk to Elliot with Spira.
You just got really choppy. Can you say that again, please?
Perfumed manatee has already been made into a pigment. Talk with Elliot from Spira. We've mentioned him before. He's isolating this from blue-green algae, and he's also just a really awesome dude.
So the thing that Gabe's referring to is there's a pigment in spirulina. I'm going to just look this up by calling it spirulina. So spirulina is a...
Yeah, and that's when I did my eyes.
Yep. So spirulina is a type of algae that is typically eaten as like a health food. But if you process it right, you get this ridiculously blue compound out of it called phycocobalamin, and it's this really deep blue, or phycocyanin, I think. Sorry.
You phycocyanin.
Yeah, it's phycocyanin. If you mix it with I'm blanking on a mordant, I believe is the word I'm looking for. Basically, if you mix it with alum, you can use it as a hair dye. It works really well. You can also use it. So it's food safe as well, which is cool. Okay.
I was about to say those are interesting flasks.
Yeah, right. I've seen a lot of flasks that look like this. Like it's always full of powder or whatever, and I'm always like, does nobody notice what those look like? Because
is phrasing not a thing anymore?
Right? Like when somebody was making those flasks, did nobody say like that's a really nice looking flask, but are you sure it's used to contain things? Like and not be contained in another thing.
Okay, and on that note,
okay, what else?
It would be really hard to make turtle ducks, unfortunately.
It would be really hard to make turtle ducks. Like there's so many animals in Avatar that I want, like desperately, but the engineering to make it happen is like I could make one turtle duck. I could not make multiple turtle ducks. Like I could like sew half a duck onto half a turtle, but like it's not gonna like it and it's not gonna breed. Like, but making actual turtle ducks would be very hard. It's the same way like everyone's like make cat girls. I'm like, do you have any idea how difficult that would be? Like,
yeah,
I could probably do it. Like,
everybody
if you give me like
wants to make a Pokemon, but
right,
nobody wants to know where they come from.
Right. Like I could probably make Pikachu. It's just I need billions of dollars, and you're not gonna like what I'm doing to those rats. Like, and the rabbits and the electric eels. Like it's just not going to be fun, and nobody's going to want to see the process. Okay, what else we got? Let's get one or two more questions, and then we're going to wrap it up for the day. It is lunch o'clock.
Would we ever do a podcast?
I mean, this basically is. That's what this is. This is a podcast with pictures.
I guess we could just turn this into audio.
I mean, I suppose we could. I'm not really into podcasts because you don't get. I mean, I'm a very visual person. Like, I want to be able to be like, I'm talking about phycocyanin, and then show you a picture of why this is so cool. Like, if I just said it's a very blue pigment, you're like, I mean, okay, whatever, blue. Then you see it, and you're like, oh, it's like deep dark blue. Now you get it. Like, this is why I'm not big into podcasts. I'm not a podcast person. Like, if I gotta just, like, sit and listen to something, I'm gonna listen to music. Or like, depending on the day, maybe I'll just listen to fucking George Carlin or something. Just something funny. Mini elephants. Again,
All right.
Elephants take a very long time to breed. Like, making one elephant takes, like, 5 or 6 years. Or more, and then like getting them to the like point of being able to breed takes another 10. So like, it's you can't make mini elephants. It would take too long. You'd have to live for 1,000 years to be able to make mini elephants. It's just not gonna happen. Robots. Thank you, Tyler. Greatly appreciated. Bioluminescent mosquitoes. If I'm gonna like engineer mosquitoes, I'm gonna engineer them to contain gene drives so there's no more mosquitoes. Fuck mosquitoes.
Yeah, but that got kicked out.
It didn't. It worked fine.
Remember, it worked fine until it didn't work.
It killed like 95 or 99% of the mosquitoes, and it was like they needed.
Yeah, and then
it didn't come back. There was like a couple weird things, but it mostly did the job. That's more of a fine tuning and tweaking thing. That was a first test drive. I think it can still work. Blue sheep. I mean, that'd be fun. I'd like sheep that came in more colors.
Yeah, but also we've got. I sent you that link.
Which link?
Well, okay. So remember, on the Biohack boards, there's somebody who's like, "Oh, like one sentence GMO ideas," and somebody's like, "Sheep that grow human colored hair." And then I was like, learn to sheep, Lana.
Okay.
Then I sent you a link. Check and stay.
Okay. I mean, I'm not.
There's just a picture.
Okay. Well, do I have a thing? Did you send it? When did you send me this? Shetland sheep.
Eric. Speeding up plant growth.
You've sent me a thing.
Go back to the.
You send me a 404 page. So I mean, I suppose.
Okay. Well, there wasn't a 404 when I looked at it.
Oh, you put two of the links together.
Okay. Eric, speeding up plant growth. Working on it, buddy. Checking some of the previous live streams that we've done. We talk about it a lot.
Yeah. Somebody asked about why not mushrooms the size of a tree. Mushrooms are already bigger than most trees. It's just the bit that you see, like the actual mushroom, is like the genitals.
It's like that fruit.
Yeah, it's fruit.
Yeah.
It's the thing it makes at the end of its life cycle. Most of the mushroom is underground. However, the first organisms on land were gigantic tree-sized mushrooms. So it did exist at one point. It's just not anymore. It's very extinct. And I have no idea how you would make that happen again. And it's not a kind of mushroom that's really a thing anymore. It would probably get eaten and destroyed, honestly. Okay. So
Alright.
let's wrap this up.
Yeah, we're just rambling.
Yeah, we're just rambling. He sent me a picture of some sheep. Here's all the different colors that sheep come in.
That's just the Shetland sheep.
That's just the Shetland sheep. Okay, we got a quick little donation. Morlin Torlin. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Says, I had no interest in bio, since I stumbled upon your channel. Thank you. I think you mean I had no interest in bio until I stumbled on your channel. I hope. But anyways, thank you for the donation. And I'm glad you're enjoying. Or maybe we bore the shit out of you, in which case I will not apologize. But yeah, okay. So this has been a lot of fun. Thanks everybody for hanging out. If you want to see any of Gabe's stuff, there's some links in the description. Thank you everybody who donated. It really is greatly appreciated. There will probably be another stream on Tuesday, but it's going to depend how busy I am. I'm trying to get a video on Yield Pandemic out before the end of the month, so I might cancel the stream and just focus on that. There's also a bunch of other bio projects I'm working on that I'm trying to get done, so I'm trying to make a video. May not do a stream, but we'll definitely be back. What is, I don't know. What are you brandishing at me? What is that?
Transpected your coli.
Cool. So yeah, we'll probably be back next Friday for another Biohack chat. If you've got suggestions for topics you want to cover or you want us to cover, send it to me on Twitter, because the live chat usually goes away when this is posted, and also I'm not going to scroll through it all again. So if there's something you want us to talk about next time, send it to me on Twitter. Post it on my community page, something like that. Thanks everyone for hanging out. This has been a lot of fun, and we will see you on the next one. We'll see you around. Bye-bye.
Bye.